How you all doing, guys? Welcome to Retro Dodo. In this video we're going to review the Zpg Pro, and we're also going to discuss the truth about Chinese retro handhelds and where the market is going and why currently we're not liking where it's going, because it's very misleading, it's full of misinformation, and this market is turning a little bit shady. And the Zpg Pro here has actually shined light on that, and I think it's about time we talk about it. So let's dive in. So this is the Zpg Pro. We've had it for about a couple of weeks now, and in all honesty, we're very disappointed with it. I've been looking forward to this handheld for some time now. It got raving reviews over in China, and then they mass produced it with I think about 1,000 units that they shipped over to us Western folk. And I managed to get the metal edition, which was, you know, considerably more money, but I dig the metal variant, so I thought I'd invest in it and pick one up. And it came with a bunch of problems. Now, the handheld itself is it's a very, very good looking handheld. It's got a 3.5-inch display, a quad-core processor, and 1 GB of RAM. Like, this thing packs a punch, but it's very, very similar to a lot of other handhelds out there. But the biggest problem with this handheld, and it comes down to a problem with the whole Chinese retro handheld market, in my opinion, and it's starting to annoy me because it's very much becoming the norm, and that is the lack of customer service and the quality control of what's being pumped out of China in terms of retro handhelds. Like this one here, the Zpg Pro, I was very excited, but it came with a bunch of problems. So first of all, the biggest problem is that the HDMI out doesn't work at all, which is a little bit disappointing. And also, I fully charged this and it won't go above 50%, as you can see in the top right. Again, quite a bit annoying. And lastly, the analog stick here isn't mapped correctly. For example, when I pulled it out of the box, I wanted to jump in and play some games. It would only move my character at 50% speed, so I was walking around instead of running. Now, I know what you're thinking. They're easy fixes. You can just do, an update or, do some research. But that there is the biggest problem with this whole market. And I contacted the people that sold me this, and I was like, hey, I'm having these problems. And their reaction was simple. Do some research and find some firmware updates that fix it. And I was like, okay, but what about the HDMI out? And they're like, this should be fixed in an update coming out in a couple of months. A couple of months for the HDMI out to work. And this, I'm seeing this more and more and more with these handhelds that come out of China. And I apologize if this is a bit of a rant video, but I feel somewhat responsible for telling the truth about these handhelds, because Retro Dodo, the brand that I'm trying to build, recommends these products on a continuous basis. We're trying to find the best handhelds out there for the best price, and sometimes bad handhelds come out. And I'm not saying the Zpg Pro is bad, but it shines light on the problem with the market. Now, customer service is non-existent nearly. If you buy anything off AliExpress or other third-party stores, get in touch with customer support or any advice, takes some time or is non-existent. And that's because I feel like this handheld community is very much driven on helping each other out. If I have a problem with the Zpg Pro, I'll either go to the community or I'll go to a content creator who has this handheld and they know the problem. Which means the companies building this doesn't need to support you. They're like, okay, the community will sort them out, let's keep pumping out stuff, which is very, very annoying. And I think that we need to start being stricter with what we recommend to people. And I think other content creators and community members should be too, because the problem with these handhelds that have no customer service and they come somewhat broken out of the box are really disrespecting and pulling back the potential of decent handheld manufacturers like Anbernic and the Retroid Pocket. Because even when I talk with some friends or I recommend people some handhelds, they're like, oh, that's Chinese crap, I don't want any of that. And this is the exact reason why people are still thinking like that, because these things are coming out of the box, not working. They're expecting you to do a load of research, and it's just very, very poor customer service. And that is the big problem here, and I can see this market getting worse and worse and worse unless we start really quality controlling what we advise people to pick up. Now, the Retroid Pocket is still a great handheld, and it has customer service support, which is really, really good. So that's what we look for in a company out in China, that's doing very well. It's these products here, like Powkiddy, Cool Baby, that are ruining the market and causing issues with new people that could be interested in coming into the retro handheld market. And it's just getting a little bit old that every time I open a bloody box, something's wrong and something ain't working. And when I want to get in touch with someone, nobody's helping me, or they're just going, ask the community. And that's becoming the norm. And I buy these out of my own money for the pure reason of getting honest response and an honest experience from the company. If I was to say, hey, this is Retro Dodo, can I have a handheld, blah, 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 they'd give me a handheld for free, big deal, don't really need that. And they'd give me incredible customer service, basically. So I buy these out of my own money to experience what you guys are going to experience, and then I give you my opinion on it. But the customer service and quality control is just incredibly poor. And thirdly, we will get onto the Zpg Pro, I apologize, is the misleading information. The amount of times I'm seeing handhelds state that they can play Dreamcast or PSP, and they can't really do that. And that's becoming the norm as well. So when newcomers come into AliExpress, or they see these products advertised, or even across Retro Dodo, they'll go to the listing and see, oh, PSP and Dreamcast, I'm gonna buy that, loads up your Dreamcast ROMs, and they barely play. Bad frame rates, cracking audio. That's becoming the norm as well, which is a big problem because people are getting almost near clickbaited into buying these products. And I just thought I'd shine light on it, and the Zpg Pro is unfortunately the one that's came across at a very bad time, and it's just needed me to talk about this because it's a big issue, and it's really, causing issues with newcomers into the scene. And I want new gamers into this retro handheld market because there's some seriously cool handhelds, but 90% of them are utter bollocks, and there's no customer service, and the product comes, out of the box in poor condition that doesn't work properly, and they expect you to do firmware updates. When I buy this, right, when I spend $140 on a handheld, I want to be able to load my ROMs and play it perfectly. Let's say they didn't say it can play PSP or Dreamcast, and that I'm expecting great emulation up to PlayStation 1. I'd be very happy if they said it and was all in honesty and said, you know what, this can't play Dreamcast very well, but anything below that plays superbly well. And everything worked. I'd be like, great. They were honest. If they've got some support, superb, we'd rate them highly. But what's coming out is lies, deceit, poor quality products, and no customer service. And that's becoming the norm, and people are still rating it high. People are saying, yes, get this product, it's good, leading people into buying it, and it's just a poor experience. So I had to get that off my chest. This could be a whole separate video. Like, I could go on to more, problems about the market regarding new content creators coming in who are actually owned by shops, like the actual people selling this, and are misleading people into reviews, but they're actually trying to sell you it and make profit off you. Like, it's a bit shady. I could talk about it forever, but let's jump in and quickly go over the Zpg Pro. I don't want to go into too much detail because I want this video dedicated kind of to the truths about the Chinese retro handheld market and why it's misleading. But the Zpg Pro here, the metal edition, it's really nice looking in my honest opinion. They've done a few things wrong, like the headphone jack is on top when it needs to be at the bottom. They've only got, one analog stick. The speaker grill is, poorly placed because of your thumb. But in all honesty, it's a great looking handheld. It's just the small features like the HDMI outlet doesn't work and the analog stick. But if I put all that aside, comfortability wise, the metal one feels great. I went metal because the plastic edition just I didn't like the colors that I could choose from, and I wanted to see what their metal edition is like. And they've got some very nice shoulder buttons up here which curve around the side. The button placement is very good. It's just a shame the headphone jack is not up the top. And it's got a very nice screen as well. And you probably can't see it, but the glass on the screen is slightly curved as well, which gives it a nice premium factor. It's also got L3. The D-pad sits high out of the shell. Like, it's a good handheld, and this can emulate everything quite well up to Dreamcast. Big 3D games on PSP and Dreamcast you might struggle with, but in terms of performance, it's doing alright. But it's just, not right out of the box. And they obviously knew about the HDMI out, and they just shipped it anyway. Like the Zpg Pro here, one of its selling points was 5,000 preloaded games, and that's what's reeling in the newcomers or the new retro handheld gamers, because they want those new games for $80. They're going to take the risk, $80, get the SD card with preloaded games and try the handheld. Yet the handheld is average quality, but they're like, it's okay because I've got 5,000 games on this SD card that I can use. We need to start being stricter, and I think that's why I've made this video, to shine light on the problem with the Chinese retro handheld market at the moment. This might be a bit absurd. A lot of you are going to say, just update the firmware, but that shouldn't be the norm when I'm spending $140 or you're spending $140 on a new handheld where you want to experience playing your old school games. Do you know what I mean? I hope this doesn't sound too confusing, but it's something that I needed to get off my chest, and unfortunately the Zpg Pro here came out with issues, and I just needed to talk about it because a lot of these handhelds now that I get into review have problems. I need to spend days fixing it, and then I can finally review it in all of its form. But I'm getting fed up with that. I need to start reviewing it straight out of the box as if a consumer was getting it. I hope that makes sense. I know this video was a bit ranty. I've gone on for minutes now. If you want a more in-depth review, there is a written review on our website in the links below about the Zpg Pro if you do want to buy it. In all honesty, I think it's one to pass. It's using a lot of the same stuff that an older handheld a year ago, which is cheaper, that is using. And it's just, a lot of handheld companies now are copying people and just making different shells and classing it as a new handheld, and everything can just emulate the same in the same price range. Nobody's really innovating right now. Retroid Pocket is probably the closest to what I'd say is innovating, but they're all very similar at the moment, and that's what the Zpg Pro is at the moment, just a metal version of a very similar handheld that came out of a year ago. So there you have it, guys, a ranty video. I apologize, but this is a video I had to make, and it's a video that I've been thinking of for several weeks now, because these handhelds are just coming out with problems and people are accepting it. And I just don't think that should be the standard that we're relying on at this moment in time. I'm very interested to hear your comments below. I know a lot of content creators follow me who are into the handheld, so please, I would love to know your opinions as well. So if you do run a YouTube channel that makes content on retro handhelds, drop a link below, drop a comment below, get involved with the discussion. I'd love to hear your opinions. As per usual, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.